The comparison between Simon Bar Kokhba and the angelic figures Kokhabiel, Barkiel, and Shamsiel in chapter 8 of the Book of Enoch can be drawn through a few thematic and symbolic parallels, even though they come from vastly different traditions and texts. Simon Bar Kokhba was a historical figure, a Jewish military leader who led the Second Jewish Revolt against the Romans, while the angels in the Book of Enoch are mythological and represent heavenly beings that have fallen due to their rebellion against divine order. One of the key similarities between Simon Bar Kokhba and the angels in chapter 8 of the Book of Enoch is the idea of rebellion and leadership against an established order. In the Book of Enoch, the fallen angels, including Kokhabiel, Barkiel, and Shamsiel, rebel against the divine authority by descending to earth, intermingling with humans, and teaching them forbidden knowledge. This act is seen as a challenge to the natural order established by God. Similarly, Simon Bar Kokhba led a rebellion against the Roman Empire, challenging the imperial rule that oppressed the Jewish people. His leadership symbolized a defiance against what was considered an unjust and intrusive authority. Although Bar Kokhba's rebellion was motivated by the desire to restore Jewish autonomy and identity, it also represented an upheaval against a seemingly insurmountable power, just as the fallen angels defied divine commandments. In chapter 8 of the Book of Enoch, Kokhabiel and the other angels impart forbidden knowledge to humanity. Kokhabiel, whose name means Star of God, is traditionally associated with teaching humans the secrets of the stars and the celestial realms. This transmission of knowledge led to the corruption of mankind and the rise of chaos, as the divine secrets were not meant for human understanding. Similarly, Simon Bar Kokhba's revolt can be seen as an attempt to seize power and control over destiny in a way that broke from the established religious and political constraints of the time. Bar Kokhba's messianic claims, reinforced by figures such as Rabbi Akiva, conveyed a type of a knowledge or belief that he was divinely chosen to lead the people to victory and redemption. In both narratives, there is a sense of hubris, a human or angelic desire to transcend the established limits of power and authority, whether in spiritual or political terms. The name Bar Kokhba itself means son of the star, which evokes a celestial image that can be linked to the roles of Kokhabiel, Barkiel, and Shamsiel in the Book of Enoch. Kokhabiel, for example, is specifically known as an angel associated with the stars. His role in Enochic literature is to teach astrology and the movement of celestial bodies, which traditionally had powerful symbolic and magical connotations in the ancient world. Bar Kokhba's name, which carries the symbolism of a star, also suggests a celestial significance, resonating with the prophecy in the Hebrew Bible that a star will come out of Jacob, Numbers 24:17. This messianic interpretation gave Bar Kokhba's followers hope that he would lead them to victory, just as Kokhabiel's knowledge of the stars was thought to provide humans with hidden power. The star thus becomes a shared symbol of hope, power, and transcendence, whether in a militaristic or mystical context. The aftermath of rebellion is another striking similarity. In the Book of Enoch, the fallen angels' defiance results in catastrophic consequences. Their actions lead to the corruption of humanity, the proliferation of violence, and ultimately their own downfall and eternal punishment. The angels are cast out and bound, suffering eternal torment for their transgression. Simon Bar Kokhba's rebellion similarly ended in disaster for the Jewish people. The failed revolt led to immense suffering, the destruction of many Jewish communities, and a period of exile that would last for centuries. Just as the fallen angels' rebellion led to their own ruin and the corruption of the world, Bar Kokhba's revolt led to the devastation of Judea and the scattering of the Jewish people. Both figures, therefore, serve as cautionary symbols of the high cost of defying overwhelming powers, whether divine or imperial. Another similarity lies in the figure of Simon Bar Kokhba being perceived as a messianic leader by his followers, while the fallen angels were seen as powerful beings capable of bestowing great knowledge and altering the course of human history. Bar Kokhba's messianic status gave him the authority to command thousands in a desperate attempt to restore Jewish sovereignty. Similarly, the fallen angels in the Book of Enoch wielded immense influence over humanity, captivating humans with their otherworldly powers and the allure of hidden knowledge. In both cases, the charismatic authority of these figures is linked to a form of idealism, Bar Kokhba with the ideal of Jewish freedom and redemption, and the angels with the promise of transcendental knowledge and power. However, both narratives end in disillusionment and suffering, highlighting the dangers of placing too much faith in figures that challenge the established order, regardless of whether that order is divine or political. The Book of Enoch describes how the fallen angels convinced others to follow them in their defiance, leading to a group rebellion. Similarly, Bar Kokhba did not act alone. His revolt was possible only through the support of thousands of Jewish fighters and the religious backing of figures like Rabbi Akiva, who viewed him as the Messiah. Just as Kokhabil and his companions' actions led to widespread corruption, Bar Kokhba's rebellion ultimately led to massive casualties and suffering among his followers. The theme of a leader with devoted followers who share in both the ambition and the downfall is central in both narratives. In both cases, the followers believed they were acting in pursuit of a higher goal, whether divine knowledge or national liberation, but were ultimately led to disaster by the figures they revered. Both Simon Bar Kokhba and the fallen angels leave behind complex legacies. The angels in the Book of Enoch are seen as cautionary figures whose actions led to a permanent separation between the divine and the corrupted world of humans. Likewise, Bar Kokhba's revolt, while a failure, became a symbol of Jewish resilience and resistance. His legacy has been reinterpreted over the centuries, from a tragic figure to a national hero, depending on the perspective of the interpreters. Similarly, the fallen angel's story has been interpreted in various ways throughout history, symbolizing everything from the danger of forbidden knowledge to the tragic consequences of rebellion against divine will. Both Simon Bar Kokhba and the angels thus represent powerful symbols whose stories continue to resonate in different cultural and religious narratives. The transformation of the Roman province of Judea into Syria-Palestina is one of the most significant yet often misunderstood events in ancient history. This article delves into the historical, archaeological, and cartographic evidence for this name change, exploring its implications for the Jewish population and the region's history. Through a detailed examination of primary sources, such as Cassius Dio and the Historia Augusta, alongside the scarce but revealing archaeological and numismatic evidence, we will analyze how this renaming effort was reflected in the administrative and cultural landscape of the Roman Empire. Additionally, we will consider the depiction of the region in ancient maps and how the cartographic representation of Judea evolved over time, providing insights into the complex interplay between politics, geography, and identity in the ancient world. The Second Jewish Revolt, also known as the Bar Kokhba Revolt, was a major uprising against Roman rule in the province of Judea. Led by Simon Bar Kokhba, the revolt represented a final, desperate attempt by the Jewish people to regain political and religious autonomy in their ancestral homeland. The revolt was triggered by several factors, including the increasing Roman suppression of Jewish religious practices and the planned construction of a Roman temple to Jupiter on the site of the destroyed Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Emperor Hadrian's response to the revolt was swift and brutal. According to Cassius Dio, a contemporary historian, the Roman legions suffered heavy casualties, and the province was devastated. Several drastic measures were implemented, including banning Jews from entering Jerusalem, which was rebuilt as a Roman city named Aelia Capitolina, forbidding the practice of certain Jewish religious customs, renaming the entire province from Judea to Syria-Palestina. Inscriptions are among the most valuable forms of archaeological evidence for understanding the administrative changes implemented by the Romans. Several inscriptions from the period of Hadrian and his successors confirm the use of the term Syria-Palestina in official documents and dedications. This inscription, found in Jerusalem, references the name Palestina in the title of a provincial governor. The fragmentary Latin inscription includes the phrase Procurator Augusti Syrii Palestini, which translates to Procurator of the Emperor of Syria-Palestina. While the inscription does not explicitly mention the name change, it confirms that the new name was in official use soon after the Bar Kokhba revolt. An inscription at Caesarea Maritima references the name Palestina in relation to the local administration. This geographical identification aligns with later Roman usage and demonstrates the persistence of the name into the early Byzantine period. A series of mosaic inscriptions found at Hisham's palace in Jericho includes references to the governor of Palestina, showing that the new name had become deeply entrenched in the regional administration. These inscriptions do not document the renaming process itself, but show that Syria-Palestina was adopted as the standard name for the province shortly after the revolt. Coins minted in the region during and after the time of Hadrian provide further evidence of the name change. Roman coins typically included the name and titles of the emperor, along with geographical identifiers. Several coins minted in the region bear the inscription, Syria Palestina, or simply, Palestina. These coins were circulated in the aftermath of the Bar Kokhba revolt and reflect the immediate adoption of the new name. The iconography of these coins often includes Roman symbols of power and authority, emphasizing the imposition of Roman rule and identity. The coins minted during the reign of Hadrian's successor, Antoninus Pius, continue to use the term, Syria Palestina. This consistency suggests that the name change was not merely a temporary measure but a lasting administrative rebranding. Claudius Ptolemy's Geographia provides one of the earliest geographical descriptions of the region using the term Judea alongside Palestina. Although Ptolemy was writing in the 2nd century CE, his geographical coordinates reflect an earlier understanding of the region's boundaries. Medieval maps reconstructed from his work show the region labeled as Palestina, indicating the gradual adoption of the new name in scholarly contexts. The Tabula Peutingeriana is a Roman map of the empire's road networks, depicting the eastern Mediterranean in schematic form. The map labels the region as Judea, despite being produced after the Bar Kokhba revolt. This suggests that older names sometimes persisted in cartographic traditions even after official renaming. The impact of this renaming was felt for centuries, influencing not only Roman and Byzantine perceptions of the region but also how subsequent Christian and Islamic historians viewed the land. The name, Palestine, continued to be used in various forms throughout the Byzantine and Islamic periods, while the name, Israel, faded from the geographical lexicon until the modern era. The renaming of Judea to Syria Palestina is a complex historical event, documented through a combination of historical texts, archaeological inscriptions, and numismatic evidence. While Cassius Dio and the Historia Augusta provide the narrative framework for understanding Hadrian's motivations, the archaeological record confirms the adoption of the new name in official titles and inscriptions. Numismatic evidence further supports the administrative shift, while cartographic sources reveal how the region's identity evolved over time. While later sources like Cassius Dio provide a clear interpretation that Hadrian's renaming of Judea was intended to erase Jewish identity, there are no contemporaneous original manuscripts or inscriptions that explicitly state this as the official policy or purpose. The absence of such direct evidence means that much of what we understand about Hadrian's intentions comes from later historical interpretations and the broader context of his actions during and after the Bar Kokhba revolt.